I'm gonna crack this thing open.
You know how like advent calendars for kids, those chocolate?
Yeah. We got one.
I'm like that with pumpkin pie.
No, it's my first Marvel movie. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, you got to see a Marvel movie in theaters." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll go see Spider-Man."
Maybe they should have been in there because I have some opinions on why Georgia is in the playoffs. They should not be in the playoffs.
Oh my god!
Why should
Not
they?
you.
They just lost.
Welcome to the Beer and Sports Podcast. We're part of Finn's Talk Sports Network. Make sure to like and subscribe both us and the network to stay up to date with and catch every episode of us and all the great shows within the network. Finn's Talk Network is Finn's Talk Network on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we are Mugs and Balls on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm Josh Wingate. He's Josh Kimmel, Josh Kimmel US, Josh Wingate. And we are doing something a little different today. We have our guest from Hometown Ghost Stories at HT Ghost Stories, Rob Coakley at King Coakley, and Dave Wilkins at Dave Wilkins 12. You can catch their Apple Podcast and YouTube links below. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Fun little intro you guys have. I was jamming out. Good times.
Yeah, we need to update that, Josh, because Georgia still doesn't. Like that now, this year they belong.
They're in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs. But,
yeah, they are. They are.
But yeah, I feel like an idiot because I didn't even pay attention that this is like the beer and sports podcast. I'm over here drinking a water like an idiot.
Oh yeah, I just grabbed a cheap beer for today, but just to have one going. I'm gonna crack it open, but
I want to ask you about that because I was listening to some of your content, and you guys are up there in the Boston area. You guys dabble in the craft beer biz. You guys getting that hype beer?
Absolutely, I'm a big craft beer guy. Rob, not so much.
What are the breweries up there that are around you?
So the Treehouse is one of the bigger ones that's right around us. I live about 20 minutes from the Treehouse Brewery in Sandwich. They used to be like 2.5 hours west, so we have to get in the car and do a whole day trip thing out to Charlton, Massachusetts, and then all the way back. But now it's 20 minutes from my house, which is actually horrible if you think about it. I spend so much money there.
I quit the beer game about a year and a half ago. We got Angry Chair down here, Woven Water down here. Used to trade for Treehouse left and right.
I like how that's a thing. Yeah, I
Trillium.
quit the game.
Quit the game. Yeah, it's an expensive game.
The game is rough, man. You get into these razzles. You probably know, Dave, all these little bidding wars of beer. Anyway, unfun. But we're here to talk about some ghosts, man, like some paranormal things. This is something I've been into my entire life. Now, I want to ask you guys, Rob and Dave, I don't know who starts first, but how did you guys get into this paranormal world that you're in?
So for me, it was my grandparents' house. It was the scariest house in the world of all time. And I grew up in that house, either living in it or visiting it or whatever. Your grandparents own the house, you're there all the time. And they bought the house in 1968. And basically, I'll go through the story super fast. But before they bought the house in 1949, the guy who originally built it was still living there. He was older. It was a farm at the time. And he had a cow that used to always get out, right? The cow would just get away. He'd have to go chase the cow down. It was a recurring thing. The cow got out one night. He went with his dog to go get the cow. Cow never came back. The guy never came back. They're talking to the newspaper, the family. 3 days later, there's a search party going on. One of the family members is talking to the reporter. The cow comes out of the woods. The guy goes, "Oh, there's the cow." The dog comes out behind it. "Oh, the dog's right there. My uncle must be right behind him." Still never found the guy. His body has not been recovered to this day. So fast forward a little bit. I'm 8 years old. My little brother's 2 years old. He's upstairs napping, or supposed to be napping, not napping, middle of the day. And he starts crying. Now, the type of kid that would get into things, hellion, worst type of child there is. So we assumed he hurt himself. My mother and I run upstairs to go see what's going on. And he is as white as a ghost in the corner of the hallway. And he's pointing, going, "The man, mummy, the man. The man, mummy, the man," just repeatedly. He's 2 years old. doesn't know what a ghost is, right? So he saw something, he heard something, and that has stuck with me for my life. And then other things that have happened in that house throughout before that and definitely after that have really helped lead me to believe in the paranormal.
Wow.
Yeah, so Rob
crazy.
lived in that house for a while. So you moved back in later on in your life, like in your late 20s, and that's when we all kind of started going over there and dabbling with the ghost hunting stuff. We'd pick up the equipment here and there to see if we can get any EMF detector readings and whatnot, and really like amateur style stuff. But that's how we kind of got into like the ghost hunting and just what really like caught our interest there. So we got some pretty cool stuff back then, but recently, a year ago, we started this podcast and we really started getting into it and actually investing in the real equipment and checking out the real haunted locations, which has been just a wild ride. It's been a little over a year, and it's been crazy.
Right. I realize, and maybe I'm wrong, but there was a huge like ghost boom when Ghost Hunters came out and Ghost Adventures and all these haunting was on like Discovery or whatever. And I got into it, but I didn't really go buy all the stuff. But I noticed a lot of people were like, "Oh, the Best Buy, you could buy this. This is all that stuff legit, or do you need to actually? Is there extra? Is there like a different site you go to or a different store you go to for your specific needs?"
No, that stuff is. I mean, believe it or not, it actually is legit because all you're really doing is detecting electromagnetic energy where there shouldn't be any, right? So what you do, you buy like a cheap EMF detector from Walmart and walk around a house to get like a cursory, EMF levels. And if it's all at 0, then once you do get EMF levels, then you know that you're actually dealing with something paranormal. You can obviously get better versions of it. So we had like just the cheap Walmart ones at first, but now we have like better, more expensive ones that work a lot better. They pick up a wider range. They pick up more EMF frequencies and whatnot. So short answer is yes, that stuff does work. But
it works, but you also have to be open to knowing how to read it and knowing what you're looking for, right? So it's like you have fantasy football. If you don't know how to use the tools that you're given, it doesn't matter, right?
Kimmel.
Right? So like if you're not familiar with that type of stuff, then yeah. But you, again, even with fantasy football, you are the best tool. You know what you want to do, right? You know how to build your lineups. You know how to go in there and your feelings and stuff like that. When you're in a place, you can you're like, all right, things don't feel so right here.
I get it, man. There's so many apps on a phone or so many things. Like, trust me, because I'm into it. When I went up to Savannah, I did all the ghost tours, and they gave me these little black things that you wave around. Not once did it light up, but everyone else was lighting up around me. I'm like, so is mine just broken? I guess mine's just busted at this point.
Ghosts don't like you.
I'll give you an example real quick, right? So for an EMF detector, if you don't know how to use it, you're going to get readings and you might think that, oh my God, this house is haunted. For instance, I have an EMF detector right here, right? And it's at 0 right now, but if I bring it closer, it kicks up. No, it's not going to do it, right? Yeah, figures, right? That's a great example, right?
Did a great job, Dave.
So, if you don't know how to read it like me.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah. All right. So, it just kicked up to 4. So, but that's because I'm in front of a computer, right? So it's picking up the electromagnetic
fields.
Thank you. From my computer, right? So as long as you know what you're looking for, then
right there, it's kind of pointless to go walk around an empty house with a little black thing if everything's on and you got TVs running, and that's what I've learned apparently.
Yeah.
John,
did you experience anything fun in Savannah? Because we covered Savannah, and like I knew Savannah was a really haunted city, and then I started diving into it, and it's actually one of our more popular episodes.
So when I was in Savannah, I've only been there 3 times. It's my group of friends. They go there all the time for vacation. It's only about a 5-6 hour drive. It's awesome up there. Mm-hmm. But I did experience some paranormal, but was it my mind playing tricks on me? That's what I questioned, because you do all the ghost tours during the day or at least at nighttime. And then once after hours hits, it's 3 a.m. I'm walking up to that same house that's, not occupied. And I'm like, goosebumps everywhere. walking up to the doorsteps thinking I'm going to knock on it. And then once I knock on it, I hear dogs barking. So I just run away. Like I'm one of those guys. But and then this is a true story. Like they told a story about 3 kids being burnt in a house for like playing black girls. And then the parents like punished them, or I forgot exactly. I wish I did my research before. But me and my friends wanted to go visit it. And it was like 3 a.m. We were wasted. You know, that's how Savannah is. And we were walking up to the doorstep and I'm scared. And as soon as I knock, dogs start barking. And it wasn't just me hearing it. It was everyone around us. So the very next day we went back in the daytime, no dogs. No dogs. We heard it from the house. There's no dogs. There's no dog bowls. There's no like food. There's no evidence. The house has been unoccupied for years, they said. Now, was this something down the distance that we heard at 3 a.m. because it was quiet? I don't know. But I swear to you, I heard it in that house. That's the only thing that's ever happened to me in Savannah.
That's still a pretty good one.
That is a good one.
Anytime you get that audible evidence, it's terrifying. Dave's kind of our skeptic, and we had a situation where we went and we investigated Emily's Bridge in Vermont. Now, we went to this bridge. The backstory all feels like it's just legend, to be perfectly honest. Like you can't find anything solid on it. So when we went here, we were like, we're not going to get anything here. This is going to be a great episode that we can be like, this isn't real. Like there's nothing here, because we do try to we're not going to sit there and say something's haunted if we don't think it's haunted. Right. And we're sitting there. Me and Jesse are setting up some equipment. Dave's walking on the bridge. He's doing a voice recording where you ask some questions and then you play it back and you hear the audio, like if they talk through the voice recorder. And on camera, we have Dave doing that inside the bridge. And he asked a question like, "Where are you?" or something like that. And a girl's voice, plain as day, comes up and says, "Behind you." And Dave jumps and ran back to us. I think he might have peed. I don't know. Maybe.
So yes, I jumped because it freaked me out, and I ran back because I was excited to show you the audio that I got. It wasn't like running away from the ghost.
But yeah, so you do get stuff like that, and it's just super scary. And then other stuff happened at that bridge, and we're like, maybe the story's not 100% real, but there is something here, type of deal.
Go ahead, Josh.
My question would be preparing yourself before you go to these events and going to check out a place. How do you prepare yourself not to be so anticipatory to kind of push something that happened? Because I feel like that would be one of the biggest skeptical. Oh, you're just making yourself hear these things because you want it to happen. How do you prepare yourself to go into an event so you're not trying to make yourself hear something or something of that nature?
Well, you want to try to make the environment as controlled as possible. Man. Right? So there's different examples of this. We went and we investigated the Conjuring house, the real Conjuring house, not the one you see in the movie, the actual one, which is actually 10 times scarier than the one you see in the movie. This house is terrifying looking, but we did it with a large group, and we were able to book it through this touring company. So we did it with some other people. And this house is old and you can hear everything. If you guys were in the second floor and I was talking in the basement, you would hear us. So was that house scary? Yes. Did we get some stuff there? Yes. But the environment wasn't controlled, and you have to sift through a lot of stuff, and it's just overwhelming. So if you can go to a place, and you can't always do it, but if you can go to a place with a limited group of people, set a control group in there, and just always do things consistently the same. Always be however you decide to do the EMF, because you got to look at it like science for the most part, where you're trying to set up a controlled environment, right? You want that control group. You want to know how you're doing things as you go in every single time. So that's what we try to do. We try to make sure that we do things consistently, no matter where we go. We're not reacting to doing things based on where we are, but just trying to keep doing it the same way every time.
So what would be like the craziest or scariest place you guys have been to? You said the Conjuring House. Was that it, or was there some other place that goes off the top of your head like, oh gosh, I'm never going back there?
Do you want to take this one first, Dave?
So I know what Rob's is going to be, but for me, I mean, the Conjuring House was definitely like the biggest, like the scariest presence. You know what I mean? But I think we've had cooler experiences or more or scarier experiences at other like lesser known places. I know which one Rob's gonna. So Rob's gonna say in Middleborough, right?
I mean, in terms of places that aren't my grandparents' house, because that's still like, I haven't even told the scariest story for that one yet, but that's still the scariest. But other than that, yeah, that night in Middleborough really like freaked me out. So
we were investigating the Oliver House in Middleborough, which is it's from the 18th century. It was a house that was owned by British loyalists during the American Revolution, and there's just a ton of history there. And there was this one room that when Rob went into, he just got a feeling that he didn't like, and that's what a lot of this stuff is, just feelings. It's why it's sometimes kind of hard to tell the ghost story, because you're basically basing it just off feelings. But the way you do it is you have the feeling, and then you try and say, all right, why do I have this feeling? And that's where the equipment comes in. You try and find some stuff. So we did actually find some stuff in this room that was pretty alarming. So we did a spirit box session. What a spirit box is it's a little device that just flips through different radio frequencies, and basically it scans. It makes a funny noise, like a noise, because it's just going through all the channels. And sometimes you'll get voices that come through in between the channels, and it's weird because it's a voice. The voice sometimes will stretch across 3 or 4 different channels. So it shouldn't be that way, right? So you figure, like, if you're going to scan across a couple channels, you might sometimes hear a very short clip of someone's voice saying something, which could just be like a radio DJ saying a word. But every once in a while, you'll get a word that stretches across 3 or 4 different channels, and that doesn't make sense. So that would be like the paranormal response that you're looking for. And this is another thing that a lot of people will, if you're not doing it right, you can get false answers, right? Like you might hear a clip of somebody speaking on a radio, and you might misconstrue that as them answering your question, but it's actually not. It's just a random coincidence. When you get that answer that stretches across multiple channels, that's how you know you're communicating with something. So we did a spirit box session in this room, and Rob got a few answers to his questions.
We's liberal. We's a liberal word. I was in there by myself, unfortunately. But go ahead.
Right. You and I did the
children's room.
That's right.
Yeah. So basically what happened is, not to take over the story, but before we even did this spirit box session, we were walking out of this room we were doing a tour of the house. Like the tour guide was showing us the house, and we're walking out of the room. And as we walk out, I feel something on my neck, and it's like burning. And I'm like, what is that? And I pulled Jesse, who just joined us, off to the side. And I'm like, and we were recording everything. I pulled him off to the side off camera. And I'm like, I need you to look at my neck and tell me if there's anything there. And I had a scratch mark on my neck. And I didn't scratch myself at all. Like, we have it all on camera. And I'm like, dude, what is that? He goes, yeah, there's like a scratch mark there. So first I get a scratch mark, which I always thought was complete BS on every ghost show that I had ever seen in my life. Like, I'm like, they're just scratching themselves. Like, and then this happens to me. And then we do this spirit box session. And during the spirit box session, this one in particular was like a full-blown conversation that I was having with this entity, to the point where, like, at the end I was like, all right, I'm going to leave now. Do you want to talk to somebody else? And it goes, no, you. And I go, all right, but what about talking to somebody else? And it goes, no, you. And I'm like, okay, bye. I'm out of here. So yeah, it was creepy. And you can actually catch that on our episode for that. But yeah, that was, for like places we've gone to investigate, that's the creepiest thing that's happened to me so far, amongst the places we've been.
So Jesse, just to keep you up on what we're talking about, I asked what was the craziest or scariest place you'd been to. I don't know if you want to answer that, or nice to see you, by the way.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
beer. Sorry, I'm late. I'm always late.
No,
for
you're
everything,
good.
but here we are. Scariest place. I don't want to repeat anyone's answers, but the Conjuring House, that one's definitely up there on the list for just kind of an unsettling place to be in. And then I believe Rob was just talking about the Oliver House, which we had some crazy evidence that we caught there. Those two, and then I think Emily's Bridge, which I'm sure one of you guys probably mentioned, but
we'd mentioned it, but we didn't tell about the thing that you saw and that I saw. If you wanted to tell that,
yeah. So I mean, first and foremost, I'm a bit of a skeptic. I consider myself to be somewhat on the fence, so I'm not one of those, ghost hunters or whatever that goes out and just believes everything that they see is a ghost. We're like, oh, that's a ghost. Oh, I saw that. This is an orb. Definitely a ghost. I heard this. Must be a ghost. I saw something fall over. Must be a ghost. Cat just ran by me. Must be a ghost. Someone was mean to me at the drive-thru. Probably a ghost. It's just like anything at all could be ghost for some people, and that's fine. But for me, I got to see something real to believe it. But to make a long story short, we were at Emily's Bridge up in Stowe, Vermont. Freezing cold night, and we didn't expect to find anything at this bridge, but at the same time, Rob and I both saw something that we couldn't explain. And the only way I could describe it is I thought someone was like climbing over the bridge, and to a point where I saw this figure climbing over, and I'm like, this is a dude. Like, why are you climbing over a bridge in the middle of the night in sub-zero weathers? Like, it's absolutely freezing to a point where like I was almost like, hey dude, what's up? Like, what are you doing? But there was nobody there. But I saw this shadow just moving and like climbing over right in front of our faces. And it was like unbelievably unsettling. And Rob saw something similar at the same time, but he saw it was like in a different area. We're both just like, what did we just see? So that was definitely something interesting.
So the point that there was a picture taken, we were actually done with our investigation, and we just wanted to get photos of the three of us in front of the bridge, just for like a shot. And one of our photos is me and Jesse looking off to the side at whatever the thing is. Like, and it's clearly not planned or anything like that. We're just like, we're both looking over, like, what is that? Like, at this point, we're like, why is somebody over there? It was
Dave's the only one looking straight at the camera. He's the one that didn't see anything, but you see both me and Rob both looking off like, what the hell is that over there?
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys think that was like a residual spirit, or was that like an intelligent one? I know there's, or because I have not watched any kind of ghost hunters in 20 years. Is that gone away? Or are they all just ghosts now? Because I know there was residual ghosts, hauntings, where it's like they do those same patterns over and over, and then the intelligence.
Right, there's definitely different kind of hauntings. I don't know what we saw. All I know is I saw a shadow, and it seemed to be doing something. It seemed to be in the act of literally climbing up over the bridge. I don't know. I honestly thought it was like a caretaker or someone that was like in charge of the area, like coming there to kick us out. But then once you started putting the pieces together, like, why would he be under the bridge waiting for someone in the middle of the night? It made no sense.
Right.
Gotcha. Just kind of spur of the moment kind of thing. So
yeah.
I actually found the audio clip of the voice recorder with the voice on it. If you guys want me to play it, it's about 20 seconds long. All right, let me see if it'll work. Is that coming through all right?
Yeah.
I heard
that was it freaked me out. That was the I had asked questions and then played the voice recorder back, and that came through, and that freaked me out quite a bit.
Did you notice that he shut off the recording? Like, what pissed me off the most is he's like, he gets this response, he's freaking out, and he just stops recording. I'm like, why did you stop recording? Like,
it was
I would stop recording. I'd be like, I'm out.
I would have never thought about it. I would have been out. I would have been running.
Yeah. It was just it was just my immediate reaction was like, oh shit, that was weird. What is that?
Yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
So I have a question about seeing and why we can see ghosts, but I want to tell a story first because I just learned this story about 3 days ago. I host a wrestling podcast, and my wrestling podcast host told me a story that he's never told me. In his old house, he had a ghost. A little boy, about 7 years old, 6 years old, that played peekaboo. Now, the only reason why he knew that is because his girlfriend that lived with him told him, hey, like, I never told you because I don't want to freak you out, but you have a ghost in here, and he's playful. He doesn't bug you at all. but he comes down your staircase and he peeks his head out and goes peekaboo and runs back, but he has like a no face, like just a kind of a blurry face. And Chris, my buddy's never seen this little kid at all. They broke up. She moved on. About 5 years later, he's still living in the same house. New girlfriend. He's still with her. They're engaged, actually. Kind of the same situation. Hey, Chris, I don't want to freak you out, but you have a little friend. He's playing peekaboo. He's right there at the staircase. Just want to let you know that, have you ever seen him? Have you ever done? He's like, never. So he told me the story. It was about 45 minutes on Wednesday night last week. And I said, so Chris, have you ever seen this little boy? He's like, never in my life. And never do I think about it. And never do I care about it. But it's weird that two of my lovers of my life in separate times, I've never met each other, tell the same exact story. So much so that he messaged his ex and then they talked. The new girlfriend and the old girlfriend talked about it and their stories lined up exactly the same. Yeah. So why can they see and he can't?
Well, there's some scary situations that have evolved from something like this. I don't know. Jesse, what were you about to say about it?
I was going to say that's what you look for in a supposed haunting, or that's what you look for in haunted areas. It's the scientific method. It's the repeated accounts of hauntings or evidence that's being captured, right? So you have one person seeing something, and then you have someone who has obviously no contact with the other person telling the same story that hasn't been told on a national level, or like it hasn't been told. You know, it's not one of those legacies and legends that's passed down. It's just like, I saw this exact thing, and then it turns out so did they. And actually, Rob has a similar story.
Yeah, but what I would be afraid of with this particular one is the fact that it's a child that's coming down to play peekaboo and only showing itself to females at the time.
And the fact that there's no face, like that's horrifying.
It has no face. Yeah. We've seen this with a lot of the demonic hauntings that we've covered, where they take the appearance of like a child and they prey on your weakness of like feeling bad for them or whatever until they start to eventually get worse and worse and worse. But I'm not saying it is.
Well,
they did move out of the house, and currently, because I asked Miranda, I asked her like, hey, and no, nothing since they moved out. So I guess they didn't travel, but I would like to go to that house. I really would.
The detail of the no face is the other thing that tips me to believing it's something demonic, because I read a lot of books on demonology, and one thing that they could say, if you're seeing a demon, that it will look like a person, and all the features will be exactly the same, except one thing will be distorted, whether it's no eyes or an elongated mouth or something like that. Like for this one, it would be the blurry face would be the one distortion that you see. So that, coupled with the fact that it's a child, is alarming.
And the fact that it's playing peekaboo, because that seems like something innocent. And a lot of times with hauntings, typically demonic ones like we're talking about, it's going to start with something small, something that's going to help you to take your guard down, right? Or let your guard down. Like, oh, this is just a kid who wants to play peekaboo. It's something nice. And then you invite them in, basically. And once you accept them, then it starts with a pretty dark process.
So, Josh, you're laughing. Very disrespectful.
No, I'm laughing because how do you go to your friend? I'm laughing because how do you go to your friend now? It's like, yeah, that was a demon.
We're just getting that possibility out of the way first. Could be a very friendly child ghost that just wants to play games with no face. It's just, I don't know, that's horrifying.
What? Okay, so he lived there for a very long time. So what was I guess you guys wouldn't know, but the end game to a demon that never did anything, because he told me only one time in his life, he told me that his dog would one time bark for like an hour at like 2 a.m. And he's like, stop. Like, what are you barking at? That's the only time. And he's like, well, maybe it was the child. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know. Maybe it was someone knocking on the door and I didn't hear the door. So why? I don't know. I don't know the end game of a demon that doesn't do anything, because the women weren't hurt. He wasn't hurt. Maybe it was. I don't know. Chris, if you're watching, I'm just trying to give you some assurance that you're okay.
Well,
I don't think he is.
So the demons don't work under the constraints of time. It's not a thing. So they're if you believe in the stuff, the history is that demons have been around longer than mankind has. So if a demonic attack happens fast, it happens fast. It could happen over the course of a couple of days, a couple of years, decades, centuries. So who knows?
So it kind of has some similar starts to the Sally house, right? Where that was for a long time, nothing happened there. There was a ghost of a child that showed up, and then shit hit the fan collectively. But it took a little bit for it to happen. So I mean, to Dave's point, what we always say is we don't make the rules. So like, it's not like the demon's like sitting there. We're like, oh my god, well it's like 5 o'clock on Friday. If I get this, if I start possessing people by Tuesday, I can be done with this job by the end of the month. Like there is no time constraints.
Quota.
That's pretty funny. But is there a possibility that it did follow, or do you think it's just? I mean, demons. I don't know how their boundaries are. I don't know if they're bounded to that one house or that one location, or they can follow a person.
They don't necessarily limit themselves to a location. They could follow people for sure.
Yeah, ghosts haunt houses. Demons haunt people. So if you are haunted by a demon, it can attach itself to you. So you go into a haunted house, and there's a demonic spirit there. And if it starts bothering you, leaving the house isn't going to change anything if it does attach itself to you.
Chief.
Have you guys known anyone? I know we've heard stories, but known anyone that's been possessed by a demon or haunted by a demon that you guys have investigated?
Nothing
Not
incredible
firsthand, but we have had people reach out and send stories about situations where they believe that they were haunted by demons.
I'm really hoping it happens to Dave soon.
Yeah, Rob's really
just for the content. For
me too. I mean,
great content.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. Would you guys, if there was a confirmed, like, let's just say my buddy's confirmed there's a demon, would you guys fly out? Like, are you guys excited to see this, or would you like want nothing to do with something?
Oh, I'd be all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we would do it.
I'd be like, nope. Call the next guy.
Yeah, we would definitely do it because that's just, again, content, right?
Yeah.
It's content. It's more about like curiosity. So, I mean, we've all seen the exorcism movies and different movies that deal with exorcisms and everything. I would want to see one in person just to see some evidence that this stuff is real, like some concrete in your face stuff flying off walls and everything. So my house that I'm in now is relatively haunted. The wife and I believe, and the kids definitely believe, to a point where things were getting so weird at the house that the wife had enough, and she called in priests, and the priest from her church came over, and they actually do exorcisms. It's a Greek Orthodox church, and I was talking to the pastor, or the Father Chris or whatever, the priest, and he was saying that he's like, oh yeah, I've done a lot of exorcisms. I've been there for a lot of them, and they were warning me when they were doing like the exorcism on the house. It wasn't like a full blown something you see in like Hollywood or something, but they were just basically. It was like a step above cleansing the house, where they were actually read these passages like specific to exorcisms to get whatever it was in my house out of the house. And he was telling me before it happened, he's like, listen, if things start to move around and things fall off shelves, don't worry, that's fine. And I'm like, that's awesome. Would you mind if I videotape? That's like, I want to see something.
Yeah,
like
I want to see that,
because that would confirm it beyond a doubt that ghosts are real and something is happening there. And not that I don't believe it, but I would love to see something that solid, because that would that'd be the end all be all, right?
Yeah. So you say, well, hold on, Josh. I'm gonna follow up on that. You say you don't, you believe, but you're more skeptical. Like, so you would actually need to see something physically fall off a bookshelf or something physically fly across the room for you to go, okay, this is real.
I think so. I mean, I've seen some stuff. Like I said, we saw that thing on Emily's Bridge. I can't really explain that. It was a windy night. There were shadows. I don't know. I swear to God, I saw a person climbing over the thing. So I've seen that. We've caught on camera doors opening and doors closing. We have the footage from at least two of them. We had one from Stowe, Vermont, where the door in our hotel just kind of popped open while we weren't even in there. We just left the camera rolling. So that was kind of cool, a cool piece of evidence. Then the other one that we got was a long time ago. It was actually one of our first investigations. We did the Houghton Mansion in North Adams, Massachusetts, super like super Western Mass. And on that, we had seen on YouTube before we went there that other investigators had been able to get this door, like these French doors, just to close on their own. And they would just be like, all right, the ghost who haunts the place is supposed to be this guy named AC Houghton who died in the house. And he'd be like, AC, can you close the door? And we saw on YouTube like that they were getting this door to close. I was like, that's pretty cool. So we tested it out and we got that on camera. We threw it up on like Instagram. It was in one of our first episodes when we covered the Houghton mansion, and we were like goofballs. I mean, that we were just having a good time. We're like, can you close the door? And we give it a countdown, like 3, 2, 1. Then you see this door just slam shut. And we're all like, whoa, cool, dude. Like, I don't know, it's our natural reaction, but it was something really cool to see. But I still would need to, I would want to see something a little more solid to fully believe. I would say I'm leaning more towards they do exist and more towards the side of believing than the side of being skeptical about everything.
Yeah, definitely. So what would be your dream location to investigate?
The Sally House.
Yeah.
Which we will do.
That's on our short-term list of places to go to. That is a really crazy story. I know we briefly got into it a little bit, but it involves a demon. It would happen in the 90s, and you could check it out. You could check out our episode on it, or Sightings did a show on it back in the 90s that we covered some of the footage of, where basically this guy was just getting scratched. Like scratches were just manifesting on his body. Oh, they have it on camera, just with completely unprovoked, and nobody knows why. So very crazy case.
That's on the list. I would love to go to some of these like bigger asylums, like the like Waverly Hills or Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Like these buildings still stand. I don't know how long they will. I mean, they're privately owned and they're functioning basically just for ghost tours, as far as I know. And I think Waverly also has like a museum or something like that. But some of these older places that used to either be like tuberculosis hospitals or insane asylums, I would love to go hit some of those and check those out. Penhurst as well.
Get me into all of the haunted castles over in.
I was just gonna say the haunted castle.
That'd be cool too.
That I covered.
Or any of them, Chillingham, Transylvania, wherever.
Chillingham. We're actually covering a castle tomorrow night, but Chillingham Castle has like one of the craziest ghost stories. Just real quick, they were seeing this blue light of this boy come out of this wall. Like people were seeing this child come out of the wall, and for years and years and years. And then finally they were doing renovations on the house or the castle, and they tore down a part of the wall where he was coming out of, and they found the skeleton of a boy wearing a blue outfit, which is like insanity, right? Like people are saying like, yeah, we keep seeing this blue light come out that turns into a boy, and then you find this skeleton is stuffed in the wall of a little boy. It's like,
and the fact that he's wearing blue,
right?
The blue light makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you guys been down to Key West or anywhere near my parts of town down here in Tampa, or you guys strictly stay up north? Like, how far do you guys travel for?
We did the Emily Morgan Hotel in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, I've been to Florida unrelated to paranormal stuff, but no, I think the furthest that we've gone so far is San Antonio.
Yeah,
right. We don't rule it out. I mean, we're definitely going to be doing more in the future as the show continues to grow and these things are able to be financed and stuff like that. Obviously, as the Patreon grows, that helps, and we're going to put all that kind of stuff and all those funds towards making trips like that to go see some of these places in person. So it's definitely the goal.
When you do investigations and you try to set up for it, like, do you do like the group thing? I know you guys talked about that, or do you try to get in there just all three of you? We don't want anyone else. Like, what is that process if you have done that before?
Earlier on, we would do we book the ones that everybody can do, but more now that we have more experience and more of a following, we're able to get more places to ourselves. The last one we did last weekend, we had booked the place and it was just our team. So we have our team, us obviously us three, and then a few other people that.
Right. The strategy depends on what the location will let us do. So the last location that we did was in Marshfield. It was called the Winslow House. And this one, they were awesome. They just like let us know when to unlock the door and let us know when to come back and lock it up. And we're like, awesome. So we had it like basically from, noon to like 9 p.m. And we just were able to really get in there and do a full investigation. And we had, our tent outside with all the electronics, like the command center or the home base or whatever, so we just like you see in the shows. And this one was more for an actual TV thing that we're working on, so a little bit different than the other episodes that we've done. So it depends on what you get. Like, so for example, when we did the Conjuring House, that was like a group thing. And we got in there and we just couldn't do it exactly we wanted to do. We still got enough to do an episode on it, and it was still a cool experience, but I would not want to do it the same way that we did it. It was just it was too small of a building, too old of a building, meaning like the walls are really thin, the floors are really thin, so you could hear everybody in the house at all times. So it was hard to really get any audio evidence because you're hearing the conversation from the person on the second floor, third floor, whatever. So it was difficult to really nail down any kind of audio evidence. So
we're not knocking doing that either, by the way. Like, if that's a way for you to go see one of these places and do an investigation, it's worth doing it, just for like us recording wise and stuff. Like, we just kind of need a little more space to do our thing. But like, if you were able to go to the Conjuring house and it's on one of those group tours, the people that host them are usually doing a really great job. It's just, it's creepy just to go in these places.
Exactly. For us, we have a different goal than a lot of people that go in there, and obviously we have our own schedule and the way that we're going to film and go about the investigation. But a lot of these locations, that's the only way you can do it. So I would still recommend doing it. Obviously, get into these locations however you can, if that's what you're into, for sure.
So Josh, what's that?
I was going to ask one more question, then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
So, because I want to go on to this, you guys are talking about investigating, and this is something I truly want to know. What have you learned from your start to where you are now? Like, your mistakes, how did you improve? Like, what did you learn to not do again to get better evidence, or to not get that crowd react, or that crowd sound, or the echoes? Like, what have you changed, or how have you gotten better? That's pretty much my question.
Well, that implies that we've gotten good.
That's true.
We're still very much inexperienced when it comes to the ghost hunting stuff compared to the veterans, and we're still figuring out how to use certain kind of equipment the right way. We're still adding to our arsenal of equipment. It grows every time we do an investigation. We try to get at least a couple new pieces of equipment every time. So we're still learning, and it's going to take more and more experience to figure it out. But we've gotten way better with just not going in there and just spitballing it. And I was saying, like, all right, I'm going to go grab this piece of equipment and go in there. Like, we actually had we have an outline now. Like, all right, we're going to hit spirit boxes in this room first, or we're going to go around the whole house first and just get a baseline EMF reading to make sure that there's no random electrical spikes in certain rooms. So we know that if the EMF starts spiking, then we know that it could be actually something paranormal, not just there happens to be an outlet in this room, and that's why you're getting some kind of electric spike or whatever. So, we have different strategies that we're learning as we go, and we're definitely getting better at it for sure.
And batteries is a big thing. Making sure our equipment's completely charged and making sure we have backup batteries, because one of the things that happens in these haunted places is paranormal activity will drain your batteries quick. And it doesn't matter how many backups you have. Sometimes we went Sunday, and the one thing we made sure was everything is charged. And Jesse, within 10 minutes, half our equipment was dead?
Yeah, as soon as we started trying to fire everything up, like, all right, well, this one's dead, this one's dead, this one's dead. Swap these batteries. So it was also absolutely freezing in the house. So I don't know if it was just equipment malfunctioning because it was so cold, but I feel like it was a little too much for that.
Yeah.
It was so cold.
So the whole theory behind ghosts and hauntings, which a lot of people don't really realize or understand it, is based around energy. So when a human dies, the energy from their body is released in the form of heat. That's why a body gets cold. They cool down to room temperature, because the heat energy is literally leaving the body. And the first rule of physics is that all energy that ever existed is the same energy that's ever existed. So when that energy does leave your body, it leaves and it goes somewhere. It stays where it is. Sometimes it gets absorbed into natural material like stones. Certain kind of stones will retain heat energy. So that's why when you're finding different, EMF levels or frequencies in areas that it shouldn't be, that is why it suggested that
it could be haunting. Yeah. And with batteries draining, it's believed one of the theories is basically if a ghost is trying to manifest or do some sort of a haunted activity, right? It's really trying to move this cup across the table or whatever it is that the ghost does in particular. It needs to draw its energy from somewhere. And so one of the beliefs is when you walk into a haunted house, you get all your cool paranormal equipment. You notice that your video cameras and your batteries are dying out of nowhere. It's believed that a ghost is sucking up that energy in order to start haunting or so. Anyways, so basically, if you're noticing that your equipment is dying when you're on an investigation, be on the lookout because that might be right when something's about to happen inside the house.
So that could be why my phone dies all the time. My house is haunted.
Definitely ghosts.
That or Apple's trying to make you upgrade your phone. Damn. Either or.
Definitely that one. 1,000% that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, unfortunately, I wish we could stay here and talk about this for hours, but unfortunately we can't. I'd like to thank you guys for coming on. Catch them, Hometown Ghost Stories, HT Ghost Stories on Twitter. I believe is that your YouTube as well. We have it all linked below on our YouTube.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. If you just search Hometown Ghost Stories, you'll find it.
Yeah.
It pops up.
And what's your Patreon? Can you shoot that out there so people can support you so we can get more content out there?
Appreciate it. Yeah, just
Hometown Ghost Stories is the Patreon, and we actually do our show live, much like you do. Every Tuesday night, there's a little pre-recorded section that lets you know about the story, and then we go on and we talk about it, and you can join the chat and like ask us questions or tell us what you think of the place, and we interact with the chat throughout the episode.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate it. We always allow Kimmel to have one last thing to say. What do you have for us? You don't have anything today?
I have nothing today. I do want to say this. I don't know if ghosts are on my mind. I know we're trying to get out of here, but my son is 4 years old. And I promise no elaboration after this. He was laying right next to me. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm playing Madden. For some reason, he woke up because he sleeps with us sometimes, me and my wife. He goes, Dada? I'm like, what, son? He goes, there's too many dadas in this room. And I said, and my dad's dead and my grandpa's dead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden I got up and I see like a shadow of a face move. But then I realized it was my own face from getting up. And I said, son, go back to bed. We're cool. And that was it. That was the last time I thought about it. But that did happen this week, maybe because I was thinking about you guys too much.
Yeah, that is kind of a little haunting story. Or maybe it's just one dada is too many dadas and he just wanted you to leave.
You know what? He does love mama more. So.
You need to go get some milk, bud. Okay,
well,
I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us on, man. This is cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I hope we didn't bore you too much. I loved it so much, and I'll be listening to you guys. I subscribe. Hey, give these guys a 5-star review, please, because they're freaking awesome. The voiceover in the beginning is freaking phenomenal. You guys do a great job. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.